all your school rugby, all in one place. This is NextGen15.
Hello and welcome to the NextGen15 Podcast, episode 11. I'm Angus Savage. Without Dan Richards today, sadly, Dan is unable to be here, but he will be back fit and firing very soon. So we're looking forward to that. So you've just got me today wittering on to myself. I do apologise. Well, I feel sorry for you, to be honest. You've got me just banging on to myself. But we're going to get stuck into some stuff because there's loads of stuff to reflect on last week's account and loads of stuff coming up this weekend that's going to be really exciting. And we've got loads else to get into. The NextGen15 Schools Rugby Table, the top 5 school teams of the weekend, some fixtures coming up, live games coming up, the greatest school 15 of the last decade. We're onto the bench now. I've got free reign to pick that as well, so that's going to get interesting. Loads and loads of stuff, as well as looking at the World Under 20s 15 that we put together as well. So there's all sorts of things to get stuck into. But before we do any of that, bit of housekeeping. You can catch us on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. And please get in touch with us on @NextGen15. That's @NextGenXV. On Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, everywhere. It's always that handle, so you can get in touch anytime. And we really want to hear from you because we want to know 2 big things this week. Who should be in next week's top 5 school teams of the weekend, as in who's going to perform well this weekend coming. Or who has performed well this weekend coming, rather. And we really want your suggestions for the coach of our greatest schools team of the decade. Which coaches have stood out over the last decade already? I can think of some major candidates. You only need to look at some of those Schools Cup winning teams. Sam Howard winning 3 in a row. Tony Window, Tom Pearce, Mark Nacey, our very own Dan Richards, perhaps. So many options, John Mallett, Simon Moore-Holland, Nick Boyd. There's loads and loads of people out there. We want to hear your thoughts on it, and we'll debate it, and we'll also look at what makes these guys great coaches as well. So we'd be interested to do that, and we'd love to hear from you. But first, the news. It's not really a big week in schools news, which is great, because that means no bad news, and no bad news is a good thing. But we did release the latest update on our NextGen15 Schools Rugby Table using the ELO system, and I'll tell you what, that ELO system is giving us some really interesting things to talk about, isn't it? Clifton College and Trinity still sit 1 and 2, same as last week, but separated by just a point. That translates as a 0.1% chance more in Clifton College's favour of victory if the two of them were to meet. It is that tight. Harrow are only just behind, and they're still, it's a less than 1% chance greater that Clifton have of beating Harrow. 4th Sedbergh, 5th Millfield, again they're just separated by a point. Kirkham Grammar School sort of locked in on 6. And then behind them, 7th to 10th. Some tricky results in there for teams. We've seen the order rejigged, but we've also seen their points totals come down and the Chasing Packs points totals come up. So we could be seeing by the end of this weekend a bit of a shake-up in the top 10. I mean, Oakham are within a hair's breadth of getting into that top 10, particularly after that fantastic cup performance against Stowe. And in fact, if I do some speedy maths, they are only just 22 points behind them, which translates as basically nothing, 2% chance, something like that. So they are very close. Denstone College as well, rising up the table into 16th now. Of course, that victory over Sedbergh, we're expecting Denstone College to finish things quite nicely. But loads of other people. Northampton School for Boys, they've been doing some really good things of late, and I'll come on to them later actually, because they've been doing some really good stuff. Cranley and Epsom College 31-32. Epsom College beating Cranley last weekend, narrowing that gap. It's so close between them. There's loads and loads and loads of different teams that are doing really good stuff, but I want to pick out a couple of teams from kind of outside the top 50, because we tend to focus on the top 50 because we want to focus on who's kind of doing things that are enjoyable for them and who's performing well. We don't want to be reflecting on who's not doing so well. Not because we don't want to feature those teams, but because we don't want to highlight the not doing so well part. Very happy to feature them at any time. And in that spirit, really worth us looking at Prince-Thorpe College. 42 place climb to get into the top 100. Really good effort that. Cokethorpe, Royal School, Wolverhampton, and Wycliffe College have all jumped over 60 places. Ravenswood and Cooper's Coburn not just about 60 places, 59 they've each gone up. So keep an eye. We'll keep talking about those sort of movers up the table, the ones making big strides, because they're the ones that probably get a little bit less airtime than others, and they deserve it. And actually, one school, I just want to have a look at where they are, because I really want to talk about them. 39th place, Kings Macclesfield. Expect them to keep going up. They have been fantastic this year, unbeaten, performing brilliantly well. Great win in the County Cup semi-final in midweek. They're also into the Schools Cup quarterfinals, having come through the North B section. Keep an eye on Kings Macclesfield, and I tell you what, they've got a good game this weekend against Stonyhurst, and the following week they're up against Sedbergh. If they can get a result against Sedbergh, that would see them rocket up the charts. It's a difficult one. You'd back Sedbergh in that, but I tell you what, Kings Macclesfield are on an absolute roll, and one Cameron Redpath will certainly be interested in that one, having moved back in the day from Kings Macclesfield to Sedbergh. So there's loads and loads going on in that Next Gen 15 Schools Rugby Table. We've also got loads of live action coming up, and hopefully if I get this recorded and uploaded and everything in time, the first one of those that will be on the agenda is tonight, Cheltenham College against Sir Thomas Riches up at across at Kingsholm Stadium, the home of Gloucester. These two so closely associated with the Gloucester Academy. Loads of former players that are in the Gloucester ranks now. Ollie Thorley being probably the most prominent example from Cheltenham College. Also Jack Clement, I think, is a Cheltenham College old boy. Loads and loads of players from both schools. And I'm looking through the team sheets actually as we speak, and both sides littered with players that are in the under-18 setup at Gloucester. So it's going to be some really good kind of head-to-heads between the two. Lots of boys that know each other. 7:30 kickoff tonight. Both teams in good form. Myself and Wilfred Kemsley are on the mic. I think we'll let I'm going to be talking a lot today, aren't I? What we're doing this, we'll let Wilf lead, and I'll interject with bad puns and stuff like that. Saturday, it's then the return of the Schools Championship. Millfield against Whitgift, 1:30 kickoff from Somerset. That is going to be an absolute classic. Not just because after 42 days the Schools Championship returns for round 4, but also because the last 2 rounds of the Schools Championship have been decided by just a handful of points. 31-28, you'll remember Millfield winning on big side against Wellington College, holding off that Wellington fight back. Before that, in round 2, Wellington College fighting back against Whitgift to win that by a point. I think it was 27-26. So already close drama in the Schools Championship. And how about this? Even more drama. Millfield v Whitgift last year, 28-26 to Millfield. At Colts level, 27-26 to Millfield. This is going to be so tight if it follows anything like the pattern of the Schools Championship and indeed fixtures between these two. So we cannot wait for that one. The Schools Championship is back, and what a belter it's back with. We will have it live on Next Gen 15 as the official broadcast and media partners. 1:30pm kickoff. Then on Wednesday, the Schools Championship continues. Round 5, Wellington College against Sedbergh up at Broad Street RFC, the home of countless classics between these two. You'll remember Tom Curtis with that touchline conversion to win it for Sedbergh. Johnny McPhillips a few years before that doing the same. Ben Redshaw, now Sedbergh captain, scoring that wonder try late on last year to win it. So, absolute classics. Wellington College have been on the wrong side of a lot of heartbreak in this fixture. Perhaps they can turn it around this time. Who knows? It's a shame we don't have Dan here actually, because it'd be great to be able to see his face as the inevitable memories of those games comes back. They sting deep, those ones, for all involved. But it's just such memorable occasions. Some of the absolute pinnacle of school rugby. And I think if you look at that stretch from, I don't know what it would be, but let's say roughly 2017 to kind of 2020, 2021 maybe, they were almost always the 2 best teams in the country. Almost always this fixture was the game that would decide what happened in the Daily Mail Trophy. I think Berkhamsted winning it last year was the first time in I think, in fact, since like 2014 or something, that it hadn't been either Sedbergh or Wellington College rather that had won it. That is what this fixture has meant over the last few years, and it's going to be a big one again. The day after that, we're in action again down at Seaford College as they host Hurstpierpoint Point College. It should be a great game. Two teams that love to play, so we're looking forward to that one massively. I'm going to get into what's coming up this weekend once I've had a look at what was going on last weekend, because last weekend was an absolute belter of a weekend. I'm going to go through all of the fixtures that were on our 10 to watch list, because our 10 to watch was it turned out to be brilliant. And as the man that picked it, I like to think that was because I kind of knew it would be brilliant, but that would be a lie. The Oxford Derby, Radley College 30-19 against Abingdon, really good performance that. Oakham winning at Bedford 40-24, having come through that incredible game against Stowe. Bodies were shattered. 3 days later, they're back on the horse, going to Bedford. Brilliant. Clifton College then. Excuse me, clearing my throat there. This is the trouble, when you don't have someone to talk to, you've got to do all this live. Clifton College were absolutely outstanding against Wellington College. 43-12. I mean, we know everything about Clifton College, so there's a reason they're sitting at the top of our NextGenXV Schools Rugby Table. But that is a statement and a half of a result. Absolutely brilliant from Clifton College. You know, Wellington gave that everything, but this Clifton side are just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Harrow, brilliant cup win in midweek over Hampton. Same thing as Oakham. Could they get back on the horse against a really good side and back up that result? They certainly could. 24-8 at home against Tunbridge. Our live stream on Friday night. What a game this was. The end of rugby week at Merchant Taylor School. Merchant Taylors are winning. Reading Bluecoat come back to draw it level, and then in the last play of the game, score the try to win the game, breaking Merchant Taylor's hearts. Reading Bluecoat taking the victory 28-21. Almost a similar story down at Millfield with Cheltenham College leading, I think it was 17-10, with about 20 minutes left to go. Millfield come charging back 26-17. Brilliant from them. Up in Yorkshire, Bradford Grammar School have been brilliant, but Quakes Wakefield found a way to get it done, 24-15. And then in the Benedictine Derby, as either it used to be known or I've christened it, Stonyhurst beating Ampleforth 24-13. And then how about this? The Trinity Machine. It just keeps on going, doesn't it? It just keeps on going and going and going. 38-21 against a Hampton side that were so determined after missing out in tough circumstances against Harrow in midweek. Brilliant from then. And then how about this? Warwick, half-time against Sedbergh. A Sedbergh side reeling from losing to Denstone College the week before, and Warwick are 10-0 up at the break. Can they hang on? 10 minutes to go, still hanging on, still 10-0. You think they're going to do it. Ben Redshaw comes on for Sedbergh, the skipper, the inspirational man. He helps guide his team in a comeback of all comebacks, 21-10, an absolutely magical turnaround from Sedbergh, a show of real character. Take nothing away from Warwick, they were exceptional, but that was all about heart, character, and a belief in the fact that your skill set will eventually come through and shine. Brilliant from Sedbergh. But elsewhere there was loads going on. The Judd and Kirkham Grammar School, two unbeaten teams that just keep on going. So impressive. I think the Judd are probably the story of the season at the moment for me. Just incredible. Epsom College, a big game against Cranley, emerged from that one 2019 victors. Whichever side won that was going to feel really good about it, because they've had some tough results of late. Brighton College beating St John's Leatherhead. You know, they've had some tricky results of late, but Brighton College with arguably their best performance of the season. Fantastic from them. Bromsgrove winning a tight one against Rugby. Old Swinford Hostel winning a tight one away at Bloxham. And Northampton School for Boys, I said I was going to mention them, 31-22 at the Daily Mail Trophy champions, Berkhamsted. Fantastic result. Northampton School for Boys have been absolutely brilliant this year. So, what's the point in telling you about all of that? Well, it's because in amongst all that are my contenders for the top 5 school teams of the weekend, and I'm going to give you 3 off the bat that I think are just non-negotiable. And that is Clifton College, because that result against Wellington College is just extraordinary. Northampton School for Boys, because I think going to Berkhamsted for a school like Northampton School for Boys and getting that kind of a victory is seriously impressive. And Reading Bluecoat, perhaps there's a bit of live stream bias in this. You know, when you're there live and you get to see the drama in person, it feels a bit more special and a bit more dramatic. But it was dramatic and it was special, and it did mean so much to everyone out there. It was an absolutely incredible occasion, and Reading Bluecoat are my third lock-in. So, who joins them? Well, I've got a little short list of 5. Trinity for that victory against Hampton, Harrow for that victory against Tunbridge, Sedbergh for that comeback against Warwick, Millfield for the comeback against Cheltenham College, and Epsom College for that tight win over Cranley. So I've got to fit 5 into 2, and really it's 4 into 1 because I think Sedbergh are non-negotiable. I think they were absolutely fantastic in showing that kind of mental resilience to get through. So Sedbergh become our 4th team, joining Reading Bluecoat, Northampton School for Boys and Clifton College. And our 5th team, it's take your pick, but I'm going to lean towards Harrow. And I'm leaning towards Harrow for one reason. They've been incredible all year. They're unbeaten, absolutely outstanding. But the effort required against Hampton in midweek in the Cup was extraordinary. It was a stunning performance. They then had to back that up 3 days later against a Tunbridge side that has been playing really good stuff of late. And they did so, 24-8, very comfortable. That is a mark of a really good side, to be able to just back up when the body is screaming at you that it needs to stop, and they've done that. Trinity deserve a massive shout out. They are unbeaten as well. The reason probably I've leaned Harrow rather than Trinity is because Trinity had a week's rest ahead of the game against Hampton, whereas Hampton were coming off the back of that defeat to Harrow. Millfield, again, a shout out for that comeback. It was an incredible comeback. Ultimately, basically, you just have to pick one side, and I've picked Harrow, and kind of the same for Epsom College, who I think should take massive heart from that. That's a huge, huge result for them. Really fantastic stuff. So that's our top 5. Clifton College, Harrow, Northampton School for Boys, Reading Bluecoat, and Sedbergh. And how about that? I did it in alphabetical order. That was very quick. Very impressed with that. I'm sure you lot just think that I'm insane. But anyway, such is life. Now, I'm basically just filling time while I find my preview of the weekend, which you'll be able to see on the website this evening. Because I want to go through the 10 fixtures that I've picked out as the 10 to watch, because I think there are some fantastic ones. Excuse me. Now, obviously, there's the Millfield versus Whitgift game in the Schools Championship on Saturday. That's a massive game. We can't wait to do it. 1:30 kickoff live on NextGen15. Do make sure that you tune in. It's going to be really special, but so too Berkhamsted Stamford, massive game. Epsom College against Brighton College, 2 sides I mentioned in those top 5 contenders. After last week's efforts, can they back it up this week? One of them certainly going to have to. Trinity going to Hurstpierpoint Point College. Hurstpierpoint Point, of course, next week are on a live stream. Trinity, everyone wants to topple them now. Can they keep going? There's nothing to suggest they won't, but I tell you what, Hurstpierpoint Point would love to. Kings Macclesfield against Stonyhurst. I said how impressed I am with Kings Macclesfield, and this is just another chance for them to keep on impressing us. Stonyhurst are a good side, but they'll need to be at their absolute best. Northampton School for Boys against Warwick. 2 teams we've already mentioned, playing really good rugby. Really excited about that one. Big derby up in Yorkshire, Queggs Wakefield against Woodhouse Grove. That should be great. RGS Guildford, can they get another big scalp? They're going to St Paul's. St Paul's are going to them, in fact. That should be great. This one I love. Kingston Park, Newcastle Falcons play host to RGS Newcastle against Durham. Newcastle Falcons stacked with players from both of these 2 schools. They've been sending in good luck messages all week. It's been amazing to see which one's going to win it. Well, Durham haven't won since 2015 against RGS Newcastle, so it'd be a big turnaround in terms of recent history if they can. But I tell you what, recent history goes out the window when these 2 go head-to-head at Kingston Park. It is such a special occasion. And then finally, St Joseph's College against Finborough. Do read what I've written about Finborough, because It's so true. They've already impressed everyone this year. They've stepped up massively. They've beaten Ipswich, Northampton School for Boys, Felsted, Bedford. They're in the Schools Cup quarterfinals. They are basically looking like the dominant force in that region. St Joseph's College, not having that kind of a season, though they have had those seasons in the past, but they are still kind of the standard in that area. If anything, because of their history, because they have the festival, because they have this unbridled passion that they operate with, and to claim that status of being the kings of the castle in that part of the country, it's a good scalp to have. And that's what Finborough will be thinking. And for St Joseph's, they'll be thinking, we're not letting these guys knock us off our perch. I can't wait for that one. I've been so impressed by Finborough this year. Cannot wait to see what they can do. But it's going to be a massive one, that one. Absolutely massive. Now, I said I'd talk about the World Under-20s 15 that we put together because there's loads and loads of players from the UK, and what with this podcast kind of focusing on the UK school scene, I want to just go through a few of those for you. Henry Arundel made it at 15. Do check it out, by the way, before I get into this. It's on nextgen15.com, labelled under our World Under-20 15 2022. And players from this, we've done this every year since we began. We also do it for under-18 level, and every time players we name go on to become huge stars in the game. So it's always just good fun to be able to keep track of who's doing what. And of course, some of the guys in this have already done incredible things. You know, Henry Arundel, as I mentioned, the old Harrow man, in at 15 in this side. Will Joseph in at 13. Both of them, you know, brilliant down in Australia in the summer. Enzo Rebier is a player to keep an eye on. Left wing from France. Sasha, the South African 10, everyone in the world knows him. Cameron Hannacombe from South Africa as well at number 8. He was our player of the tournament in the Under-20 Six Nations Festival. Emeka Ilioni gets in at 7, the England flanker. Really impressive actually this year with Leicester Tigers. Particularly in the Premiership Cup, he's done some good stuff. Chris Schunzer, everyone knows about him, don't they now? The Welshman. And then loosehead Mathis Perchot from France. Yeah. And a really UK-dominated bench, actually. Patrick Harrison from Scotland, Jack Boyle from Ireland, Riccardo Genovese from Italy, Mark Morrissey and Ruben Crothers, both from Ireland. Finn Smith, of course, who could forget Finn Smith, wearing 22. And Emilien Galaton from France, wearing 23. Some really, really top players. But do go check it out. It's just a bit of fun, but it's a good laugh. I'm kind of rattling through here because I'm under time pressure. I've got to get in the car and get myself off to Kingsholm in a minute. But we're going to finish off with our greatest 15, greatest schools 15 of the decade. We've done the starting 15. It's now to the bench. I'll just rattle through that starting 15. This is off the top of my head, so let's hope I get it right, hey? Loosehead, Benno Abano from Dulwich College. Hooker, Alfie Barbary from Bloxham. Tight head Finn Baxter from Wellington College. Second row partnership, Chris Schunzer from Whitchurch High School and Joel Kapoku from Oaklands College. Back row, bit of a fudge at blindside, Ben or Tom Curry from Oundle. We'll get into that when we do the bench. 7, Ben Earl from Tunbridge, and number 8, Zach Mercer from Merson Castle. In the back line, Alex Mitchell from Lymm High School. Fly half, of course, Marcus Smith from Brighton College. Centre combination, who are now playing together at club level, Cameron Redpath from Sedbergh and Ollie Lawrence from Bromsgrove. Back 3 on the left wing, Cassius Cleves from Wellington College. On the right wing, Gabriel Libertoy from Trinity. And at fullback, Lewis Liner from Hampton. And there we go, I actually think I got that right. Who would have thought? So the bench. I mean, largely this is going to be made up of people who just missed out on selection to the first team, as a real bench might be. But there are certain areas where we need to have a bit of a debate as to the makeup of it, not least because I've got certain players I definitely want to get in, and since Dan's not here, yeah, they're getting in. It's happening. Hooker, number 16, Jack Walker, Prince Henry's Grammar School. He was on the cusp of making the team anyway. He's in in the 16 shirt. Close run thing actually. Sam Riley from St George's College, Weybridge was a really good schoolboy as well. 17 shirt, Bevan Rod from Sedbergh. Again, almost got in the first team. Bevan gets in at 17. 18 on the tight head side. Marcus Street from Exeter College. Loads of other options. Paul Hill. And I should actually mention Lewis Boyce and Paul Hill either side of Jack Walker in that Prince Henry's Grammar School team that was also the England under-18 front row and stuff. All three of them deserve a shout out. But Marcus Street was basically doing exactly what Marcus Smith was at the same age, at the same time. He was just playing at tie head prop, so no one knew about it. He was playing England under-20s in his upper sixth year. He was doing all that stuff. An absolutely brilliant schoolboy player. 19 in the second row, that's more of a debate. There's loads and loads of players it could come down to. I've narrowed it down to 3. Johnny Green, who left Seaford College last year, Wales under-18, played a bit of Wales under-20 as well. Really, really top player. Ewan Richards, the former Millfield skipper, who's now doing incredible things at Bath. And Hugh Tizard from Cranley, who I'm pretty sure won the St Joseph's Festival with Cranley. He definitely won the Rosslyn Park Sevens with Cranley. He was an absolute phenomenon on the Sevens field. It makes it quite entertaining to see him as a professional now, operating in kind of the more dark arts roles of the second row. When I know that secretly he wants to be out there in the wide channels having a rampage. Choosing between the 3, ultimately it comes down to those titles that Tizard has behind him, and they're not the only factor in this team, but it is a greatest schools 15, and part of that is going out and having such a big influence that you win things. So Tizard gets the 19 shirt from Cranley. Back row shirt 20 is pretty easy. It's whichever of the Ben or Tom Currys doesn't start on the blind side gets a place on the bench. Ben or Tom Curry from Oundle wears 20. Now the 3 backs is interesting, or has room for debate. Lennox Anyanwu from Christ Hospital is going to wear either 22 or 23. The debate we have is what to do about those 2 others. For me, Tom Whiteley is a certainty. I've said it on social media that he's my favourite schoolboy player I've ever seen. I thought he was just an electric schoolboy, made you get off your feet. He can play 9, 10, 15 and on the wing as well if you want. Started his schoolboy career as a fullback, ended up at scrum half to accommodate another guy who's on the shortlist here, Darren Atkins, who was playing fullback. So that's the debate there. The interesting thing we have is that we had a scrum half who very nearly made the starting team in Blundell's Jack Maunder. And the question you have therefore is, do you go Maunder 21 and Anyanwu 22, Whiteley 23? Or do you go, there's no point in having 2 scrum halves on the bench, so it's Whiteley 21 and Anyanwu 22 and someone else wearing 23? For me, and this is just for me, because Maunder is an exceptional player and was an exceptional schoolboy, I don't think it makes sense to have 2 players basically covering the same position. So Tom Whiteley will wear 21. Lennox Anyanwu will wear 22. We don't need to worry about fly half cover because Whiteley can play at fly half if needs be. Cameron Redpath can step in at fly half if needs be. And this is a school team. And Alex Mitchell, when he was a schoolboy at Lymm High School, more than comfortable stepping in at fly half. So we've got 3 options there that can step in at fly half in this team. So we don't need that cover. We just want centre cover through Anyanwu. Whiteley's covering 9 and 10. And kind of the back 3, but we'll get another back 3 player in there. And given that Whiteley moved from the back 3 to scrum half in effect to accommodate this player, it seems to me logical that Darren Atkins should wear that 23 shirt. There are loads of other options. Another Millfield man, Dan John, Tom Parton from Wellington College, Ali Needon, one of my favourite school players of all time, Matt Prothero, who was incredible at Hartpury College, Freddie Stewart, Nick David, the list goes on and on, Josh Hodge and Ali Crossdale up at Sedbergh. There are so many good players. But I think for me I lean to a choice between Parton and Atkins because they were both part of 2 of the most incredible backlines I've ever seen. Wellington College had Rory Brand at scrum half. I can't remember who was at 10. And then they had Connor Dolan and Matt Williams in the centres with Sam Asplan Robinson, Ben Loader and Tom Parton in the back 3. I mean, it was just ludicrous. And at the time, the big rival was Millfield, who also had this star-studded backline. Scrum half Whiteley, fly half Callum Sheedy, inside centre Adam Hastings, outside centre Alec Coombs, who now plays Scotland Sevens, and fullback Darren Atkins. These two incredible backlines. Atkins, I think, edges it for me, partly because of Millfield shuffling things to accommodate him, because they already had a gem in Whiteley, but also because for me, school rugby sometimes just comes down to moments, and Atkins is the owner of one of the great moments I ever saw. Well, I didn't even see it. It was at the St Joseph's Festival, and Darren Atkins was playing on the other pitch to me. And, well, I wasn't playing, I was observing. But he was playing on the other pitch, the one that I was watching. And he scored a try. And the entire festival seemed like it stopped while everyone went to try and work out just how good this try was. The whole place, it was all they could talk about. Everyone was looking for replays. They were trying to get it on their phones. They were trying to do everything. It was a genius score. And not often do you see an entire place stop like that. So with that in mind, Darren Atkins, I think, wears 23, which means Tom Whiteley at 21, Lennox Anyanwu at 22, and Tom Whiteley at 23. And that is our greatest Schools 15 bench. Let us know what you think. I'm sure you all have plenty of thoughts. But please, more than anything, let us know which coach you think should be coaching this, because that is what Dan and I will be debating next time up. And I tell you what, I'd love a shot at coaching this group. You wouldn't need to do too much coaching, would you? You'd just be like, on you go, lads, play. I'd love to get this team together. In fact, we got Lewis Liner get in touch on Instagram the other day saying that we had to get this team together. And I tell you what, can you imagine it? This lot playing against the Barbarians, that'd be special, wouldn't it? But that's everything for this week. Short and sharp, hopefully, because I've got to get myself to Kingsholm, and you don't want to hear too much of me just droning on, having a conversation with myself. Dan will be back in the hot seat next week, rest assured. But until then, have a very good weekend. You can catch us on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And there's a YouTube special coming out in the next few days. I'm recording a special podcast with rugby school headmaster Peter Green, who was also my first ever senior school rugby coach. I'm not sure he knows that, but he'll soon find out. We're talking about the bicentenary celebrations of the game, and of course, therefore, the game at rugby school. We're doing loads of stuff with them over the course of the next 12 months, and we're kind of kicking it off with that conversation with Peter Green about rugby at rugby school, the game, how it all has come about, some of the history behind it, and perhaps a little bit about what the future has to hold. So it should be a good chat, that. So make sure you catch up on that. That's Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And please, please, please get in touch on @NextGen15. That's @NextGenXV on all social media platforms. I'd love to hear your questions, thoughts, topics you want us to discuss, your top 5 school teams of the weekend, and your suggestions for the coach of the year, coach of the decade, rather. Till then, though, have a great weekend, and we will catch you very, very soon.